Here we are. I'm gonna take my headphones off again, because that's actually a little bit more comfy. Alright, post that. I'm aware this is not very forgiving for the European viewers. Might be. But I needed to relax a little bit today after work. And also I hurt my back. At the food bank on Thursday, and so my back has been killing me. What's up, Gotron? Welcome to chat. Hopefully I won't have to get up and do a whole lot of stuff. We'll see, we'll see. But you guys are all here for the tier list, and I made sure to pull it up beforehand. Alright. Here it is. The tier list. The ideologies tier list. This is part 2 as I'm recording this. And in fact, I wanted to start off by addressing something that we talked about last time, or that I talked about last time. Whoa, what is going on? Pretend you didn't see that. Don't worry about it. Okay. Last time we were talking about modern fascism a bit, because when you're doing a tier list of ideologies, it's kind of unavoidable. You talk about the rise of the far right and fascism in the modern day, and we talked about feudalism as well, and liberalism. We talked about all the ideologies, at least that are present here and that were present on the other smaller tier list that I started with, but that one was a little bit less fun than this one. Is it funny that MCU's version of a terrible government is better than the one we have? Yeah, the imagination of the liberal is continually surpassed by their own ideological descendants, the fascists. Yeah, you know, people don't want bad things to happen, so they tend to underestimate the capacity of said bad things to happen. It's a pretty natural tendency, but liberals, like I said, being convinced of the permanence of liberalism as an ideology will underestimate that even harder. What I wanted to talk about, though, was the relationship between fascism and feudalism, particularly the relationship between those two in the context of the modern far right. Last time I said something that I actually think I would go back on now. I said that, like, ultimately feudalism isn't gonna come back. And I meant that mostly in the sense of I thought that legal documentation will probably always be written in a universalist sort of language. Everybody has the right to X, and the underwritten part, you know, the subtext of the law would be that if you don't have the money to access that which is your right, then it's not actually your right. You know, that's the difference between liberalism and feudalism, because, you know, in feudalism that money didn't matter as much, right? Like, you could be part of the merchant class, but because you weren't landed gentry, because you weren't in a noble family, you weren't part of a noble house, you wouldn't actually have those rights. But no, we do see a lot of similar, you know, feudalistic characteristics happening in late stage or end stage capitalism, and it's sure to rear its ugly head even more under fascism. The sort of gobbling up of physical real estate and of increasingly so digital real estate. The companies that are consuming more and more market share, to use, you know, market terminology, are beginning to resemble the immovable feudal landlords of old, where effectively they have so much control over land and over digital, you know, space, then, you know, that they sort of functionally tie people to that. People are functionally bound to the land in a way, and you know, obviously with everything being a subscription, everybody has to pay rent, and then obviously, like, there's a small class of billionaires, and that wealth tends to stay in the family, and they're richer than God, and the similarities are definitely there. So I don't know if I would maintain that same opinion that feudalism is not coming back. Maybe it is. It's possible that it is. In fact, you know, who is it? Yanis Varoufakis? Yeah, I remembered his name. Yeah, this guy was the former finance minister for Greece. He's an economist, very smart dude. And he argues that we've actually already sort of crossed that line from what we used to know as capitalism into, I guess, techno-feudalism, which would be what I described with, like, with the fiefdoms, instead of being purely physical, they are now also digital. And we're sort of tied to these websites, to these services, this, like, something such and such as a service. We have to pay rent, and the long arm of the law is more so the guarantor of the of this sort of immovable propertied class than for any of the peasantry. And especially with the decay of the education system, the populace in general is coming to resemble the serfdom, the serfs of old, more and more. It's 0040 right now. Ain't no way I can watch the whole stream tonight. Yeah, this is going to be pretty brutal for Europeans, and I apologize for that. Definitely, you know, get some sleep if you can. The VOD will be up both on Twitch and on YouTube, and I will be making this into a YouTube video, this ideologies tier list. This is too good of content for me to miss out on. I've never seen a video that said rent is protection money. Well, it is protection money. It's a extortion racket. That's kind of what insurance is. You know, insurance is just like, I've seen. Oh, okay. Yeah, insurance is like, you pay money, and you're like, hey, if I ever, like, encounter a rainy day, I'm gonna need that money, and that money's supposed to accumulate in that account, so I pay you every month. And then you need the money, you're like, hey, insurance company, something bad happened, I need the money. And they say no, and they just take the money and run. That's what insurance is. But let's be honest, they wouldn't fix it. Yeah, no, they wouldn't. But the thing that makes insurance viable as a business model is that you actually can't do a lot of stuff if you don't have insurance. I think there are some, like, legal requirements for people to have an insurance policy, even if it's the shittiest insurance policy in the planet that has no guarantees of ever paying out for anything. You have to have insurance. Otherwise, like, the bank forecloses on your house or some shit. You know what I mean? Very glad my comment will actually result in a great YouTube video. It was a good idea, so I'm doing it. You know? Hello, Editing Y2K here. This is just one part of a multi-part series of me ranking all the ideologies that I know enough about to comment on. It took place over the course of 2 live streams earlier in the year, and the other parts will be all available on a playlist if you're interested. Please check it out, and thank you for watching.